We're recording the interview of Vince Taylor. This interview is being conducted at Wright State from the Wright State University Veteran Voices Project. The interview is being recorded at Wright State University in Dayton, Ohio. It's 3 p.m. on July 10th, 2014. All right, Vince, let's see. What is your full name?
My full name is Vern Vincent Taylor.
Okay, and your date of birth?
January 18th, 1973.
And your branch of service?
U.S. Army.
Okay. Your highest rank attained or current rank?
Captain.
Captain. Okay. War or conflict or conflicts you served in?
Operation Enduring Freedom, 2007 to 2008.
In Afghanistan?
Iraq.
Okay. And was that the only one then? Just the one deployment?
That's it.
Okay.
Just one deployment.
All right. All right. We're going to kind of go back to your early days in the service and just kind of go from there. So, what were your first days in the military, like basic training? What was that like for you?
Well, I went to basic training in 2005. I enlisted in 2005, went to basic training. I was 31 years old, so I was one of the older ones in my platoon. Mm-hmm. So obviously they stuck me in responsibility of like squad leader and stuff like that. So it was good though. I had a good time in basic training. It was all right. They keep you busy.
Okay. Now were you doing OCS immediately after that, or because you're an officer, were you enlisted first?
After that, I went to OCS at Fort Benning, Georgia, at the Officer Cannon School there, and then graduated from there in 2006 and commissioned.
Okay. Was that the plan all along then? Like when you went in, you were planning on doing the OCS immediately after?
Right. I wanted to do OCS. That's why I enlisted.
Okay.
Right. Yes.
Let's see. Any other stories? Anything memorable you can remember from basic that kind of stuck with you, or I'm sure you got plenty.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just basic training. You get limits of time to eat. So if your food was hot, you want to get as much in as you could. So you poured water on it to eat it real quick, and because you had to shovel it in pretty fast, because they'd make you leave after I think we had 10 minutes. The first day we got there, we did the lift over the head with the duffel bags, and one guy passed out, and that was kind of interesting. They didn't know he was passed out until they couldn't wake him up, so they just came and got him. The medics did and carted him off in a litter. Those are probably the most two distinctive memories about basic training. It was just basic training. You do all kind of crazy stuff in basic training. So
yeah. Okay. Let me step back here, do some biographical information that I missed. When and where were you born?
Findlay, Ohio.
Okay. And you said your birthday. What were your parents' occupations?
Teachers.
They're both teachers? Okay. Either of them in the military?
No.
Any family in the military besides you?
My dad's brother was briefly in. My mom's sister's husband was in the Army, and her cousin was in the Air Force. My dad's cousin was in the Air Force. My dad's uncle was in the Air Force. My dad's dad was in the Army Air Service. I guess it was under the Army back in World War II.
Okay.
My grandpa was served in World War II. But my dad never did.
Okay.
My grandpa did.
Your grandpa did, but your dad didn't. Okay.
Right.
What about your siblings? Did you have any siblings?
Yeah, two sisters.
Two sisters. Okay. What were their names?
Anna and Christy.
Anna and Christy. Okay. And so you were 31 when you got in. What were you doing prior to that?
Well, I went to college, and I left college, and then got my first job in Fayetteville, North Carolina, where Fort Bragg is, but I worked in a tire plant there in quality control, and I worked there for over 5 years, and then 9/11 happened, so I got real patriotic and decided to join the Army. So I resigned at the factory and enlisted in the U.S. Army.
Okay. And you said you went to school. Where'd you go?
I graduated college, Pensacola Christian College in Florida.
Okay.
Pensacola, Florida.
And what was your major?
History.
Okay.
With a minor in mathematics.
Okay. Let's see. And so you enlisted, and then you went to OCS right after, right?
Yeah, basic training OCS.
Okay.
Absolutely, both.
No.
I had to do both.
When you sign up, though, do you technically enlist then?
Yeah, you enlist, and if you don't make it through basic or AIT, then, you know, I don't know, I guess you couldn't go to OCS, but I signed up with the OCS option, so after basic I went to OCS.
So, do you know what would happen if you wouldn't have gotten through OCS? If
I would have been enlisted for another 3 or 4 years.
Oh, okay.
Till my contract. See, initially they give you a 4-year contract as an enlisted person,
Mhm.
and then when you go to OCS, if you graduate, they actually basically do away with that enlistment and give you a new enlistment, basically
Okay.
a new contract, which is actually 3 years
okay, for the officer.
for the officer
Okay.
side. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What was OCS like then?
It was actually, I thought basic was a little bit more fundamentally better than OCS. OCS, I mean, we did a lot of crazy things. It was kind of more of a rites of passage, in my opinion.
Oh, okay.
You know, we did have some academic, you know, tests that we had to take, as far as in like military history, you know, and like basic infantry skills and stuff like that. But they were very easy. It was more of just kind of like just putting up with just, you know, kind of crazy things like, you know, you had to do chin-ups before you ate, you had to do facing movements, you had to answer, you know, trivial things about the Army, you know, or else you would get like tours or push-ups or whatever if you didn't answer them right or go back the line, which those things that they ask you, the trivial stuff, I've never even really had to know since then, you know, it was just kind of crazy things, you know, about like name like the 5-star generals of World War II or something crazy like that, you know.
Okay.
So there was like just basically testing you know, to see how you react to things, really. I mean, a lot of it, in my opinion, I felt that what you learn in basic training is a lot more useful than what you really learn in OCS. And OCS was twice as long, so, well, almost. So it's just kind of like a twice as long basic training, basically, and they don't cover basic, like at least in basic training, like you get to learn how to, you know, throw grenades, you know, shoot weapons, you know, shoot AT-4s and stuff like that. Well, OCS, I guess they expect you to know all that since you've already been through most of them have been through, you know, some sort of enlistment or basic training. So they just do more kind of just weird, you know, like walk on a certain side of the pavement, you know, do this, do that, you know, maybe, you know, do lunges around the building, you know, just crazy things like that, you know, just weird stuff, you know, just weird rules.
Yeah.
Sing the Army song every night before you go to bed and stuff like that. Just
Okay.
bizarre things.
Okay. So you don't feel like you got a lot out of OCS though?
Well, I mean, it was mandatory for me to get a commission, and obviously OCS has been around longer than I've been alive, so it must work, you know, for them. But I just felt like that, you know, I don't know, it didn't really have a whole lot to do with preparing you actually to be an officer. It was just kind of like a rite of passage.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Right.
This is all my opinion.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, obviously the Army knows what they're doing. They've been doing OCS since like we've been 1776 or whatever.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But, so,
Yeah.
but that's just my opinion.
Okay. Let's see. What did I miss? Why did you choose the Army?
Well, actually, it was kind of weird. I actually put in paperwork for the Air Force, and actually I talked to the Navy first as well, and they were all actually, the recruiters were all actually in the same building, and the day I went to check on my paperwork for the Air Force, I walked by the Army guy, and he was just standing outside his door, and he goes, "Hey, you know, you think about service?" I was like, "Right, I just stopped in to see where they were with my paperwork that I submitted to go in the enlist in the Air Force." And he's like, "Well, what are you interested in?" He just started talking to me, you know, and brought me into his office. And then basically he got me into the Army quicker than the Air Force got me into the Air Force. That's how it happened.
Yeah.
Really.
Okay.
So that's how it happened.
Yeah.
I got into the Army quicker than I got in the Air Force.
Yeah.
So,
Well, well, it works, I guess.
yeah. In the Navy, I was too old. They like guys under 28 years old.
Really?
So they didn't even really entertain me.
Oh, okay.
They basically didn't want anything to do with me. Navy, they were just like, you know, I was kind of, they weren't as interested because, you know, the only part of the Navy I wasn't really interested was the SEAL, and they can't guarantee that because that's really a very grueling, you know, route to go, and not everybody makes that. So, you know, unless you want to be on a ship or an aircraft carrier, you know, the Navy was kind of, you know, not really as appealing to me, or a submarine.
Yeah.
I wasn't too sure that I wanted to do that.
Right.
You know, so.
Okay. So let's see. How did you adapt to that lifestyle? I mean, you go from, you know, being a civilian to having to go through basic and all that stuff. I mean, that's got to be tough. What was that experience? Did you deal with it well?
Yeah, I think basic was good. Actually, I got along really good with my drill sergeants. I guess not everybody probably has that experience. OCS was a little tougher, just because, but I think it was probably tougher on everybody. You know, they make it that way on purpose, I'm sure. It was actually a lot more tougher. Like I said, I always said that I'd be willing to go through basic again before I would OCS.
Okay.
But I don't know. You just do it. You just adapt. I mean, it's not. You just adapt.
Right. All right.
And if you don't make it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Plenty of people don't make it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's.
Through OCS, is there a lot of?
Yeah, OCS was a bigger loss rate than basic training. Of course, there's some that didn't make it a basic either, but OCS, yeah, a lot of people were weeded out or had to recycle.
Okay. Now, do you feel like you said you got along with your drill sergeants fairly well? Do you think that was because you were older, you think, and then they were dealing with a bunch of 18-year-olds? It was nice to have somebody who's a little bit older, or?
It could be. I don't know. I really don't know. Some people you just get along with better than others. It's like any other job that you go to. I mean, there's some people you get along with that you work with, others you don't.
Okay.
Fortunately for me, I got along with my drill sergeants really well, so, you know, as well as you can get along with a drill sergeant, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. After OCS, then you did what right after OCS?
Well, you know, they sent me orders back to Fort Sill, and so then I went to Fort Sill, and the orders had me go to Fort Sill for back then they called it FAOBC, Foot Artillery Basic Course, now it's called Bullock. And so I had to do that. It's a school for about 6 months.
Okay.
How long is teach you more about artillery as the officer side of the House of Artillery.
Okay. Because that was your specific job then, was an artillery officer?
Yeah, I got commissioned. They sent me orders to become an artillery officer.
Okay.
So, yeah, I became an artillery officer, and then my first unit I went to was was an MLRS unit, Multiple Launch Rocket Systems unit.
Okay.
And I was initially started as a platoon leader of a platoon of about 32 soldiers. There's like usually 4 platoons that make up a battery. There's about 120 soldiers, and there's a platoon leader for each platoon. So ideally there's 4 lieutenants. When I first got there, I think we only had 2 other lieutenants, and then we got another one, and then so we did some training for about a year, and then in 2007 we got orders to go to Iraq and shoot rockets in Iraq. So, but they didn't take our whole battery. They only took basically about a platoon and a half. Well, basically 2 platoons, and so they out of the 4 there was 4 of us lieutenants, so they only took like 2 of us. So I was one of the ones they chose. The commander and first sergeant chose to take.
Okay.
They said because I was older and more mature is what they said. I don't know if that's really true, but that was their excuse. So me and another lieutenant, we went in this. It was a detachment.
Okay.
And basically we were to provide fire support for, the maneuver elements in Iraq.
Okay. Now, so you were in Iraq. You guys made it over there.
We flew over there in a C-5 with our launchers underneath us.
Oh, okay. So you guys didn't do any civilian flights on the way? It was all military?
Yeah, on the way it was all military.
Okay. So what part of Iraq were you guys in?
We were all over.
Oh, okay. So you guys moved around a lot then.
Yeah, because we were providing fire support to whoever needed us. I mean, we started out outside of Bakuba, and then we went kind of outside of Baghdad a little while, Then we kind of went outside of Tikrit a little while. We went up to Mosul, outside of Mosul a while, and we're all over.
Okay. How did you guys get around there then?
Well, they usually convoyed our equipment with a security element. I flew on a chopper a lot.
Oh, okay.
The officers, I would like to say we generally flew in the choppers most of the time.
Okay.
Where, you know, our equipment, they had to drive because they couldn't lift them up with a chopper.
Right. So you said, how many guys, I don't know if I missed it, how many guys did you say came over from your battery?
Detachment?
For your detachment?
It was about 2 platoons worth.
Okay.
I don't remember exact number.
So around 60, 80, somewhere in there, you think?
Yeah, maybe not quite even that much.
No, okay. Okay.
Closer to high 40s or 50.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
48 or 50, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not really sure, so I don't
Yeah.
want to tell you anything wrong.
No, just a rough estimate, that's fine. So you guys, the officers flew to the locations you guys were ordered to go in country. Now, you said your equipment was driven, was that by your guys, or did you guys have separate convoys that took them, or how did that work?
Both.
Both? Okay.
Yeah, both.
You guys have like security elements that brought your guys' stuff?
Yeah, they would like task out security elements that for our security, so you know, for our protection, because we didn't have enough to man all of the turrets on
Right, on the
top of
on a convoy?
convoys. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So we always had a. Yeah.
Okay. Any memorable experiences that particularly stick with you still, or?
Far as what? Far as the Iraq thing? Or?
Yeah, for the deployment.
Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of cool missions. We blew up. I mean, we did a lot of where the maneuver elements would call for Fire Force to blow up. They would come across. They started coming across a lot of homes that were booby trapped with explosives, and so what they would do is they cordon the area off within, you know, maybe about 50 to 100 meters away, make sure people were there, and then they would lays a target for the grid location and elevation, and they'd send that to us, to me. I was head of the Fire Direction Center, meaning that I got the missions from higher, which originated from the Forward Observer, you know, who was working for the maneuver commander, and he would send that grid location and elevation to us, and then we would process that in my Fire Direction Center using computers, and then send it to the launcher, and the launcher would shoot the rockets at the targets.
Okay.
And we blew up some cool stuff. I know one time we had we always checked what we're hitting with a computer program, and I don't think I'll name it in case I'm not supposed to name it. But that particular program used UAV and satellite type footage.
Okay.
And so we'd enter the grid location in there, and it could give us the aerial view of what we're going to shoot at.
Oh, okay.
And one time the observer sent us a mission where it was a mosque, and you know that needs a corps or a division approval. So my corporal that was running that program says, "Hey, sir, come over and look at this." I went over and looked at it, and he goes, "That looks like a mosque." I was like, "Yeah, it does." So I basically called our headquarters and said, "Hey, look, I don't know if they know this, but that's a mosque, and we need to have, you know, basically a general to approve that." And so the headquarters said stand by. They talked to the maneuver commander, and maneuver commander said that he was going to try to send a couple squads in to root out the terrorists in this church instead of, you know, this mosque to blow it up. So he did that, but anyway, there was a couple guys killed. So but what they did, they ended up pushing most of the insurgents into a wing of the mosque. So we ended up getting the approval because some soldiers were killed. And I think actually I don't know how many, I don't want to tell any wrong information, but I think some of them were actually even Iraqi army soldiers, but because they were intermingled with some of our American.
The ones that were killed?
Yeah,
Okay.
in the mosque.
Okay.
You know, when he sent the squads. And so anyway, they authorized us to blow up that wing, so we did. We sent 2 rockets there, and we blew the wing up, and we got all the insurgents, so they had to know. It was the observer said, "Great shooting, you know, it blew up what it was supposed to blow up, and it quelled no more insurgents were alive." So
Okay.
to harass them or shoot at them.
Yeah. Did that happen a lot where you guys ran into mosques because they knew they could probably have
No,
a
that
better
was
chance
only one
of hiding
time. There was one incident where we shot a fire mission with this is another interesting story. We had one, a bomb making factory, and it was in Baghdad, and the insurgents actually put it near a hospital, so they had some, I guess theoretically, some collateral damage to the hospital. And what was funny is, like, CNN came out and said that we had bombed the hospital, so the army had to go investigate, and ensure that what we shot at was the right thing, the bomb making facility. And they did the investigation, and they found that we hit what we were supposed to hit. There was some minor collateral damage to the hospital, but it wasn't like what CNN made it out to be, or Al Jazeera made it sound like we were trying to blow up hospitals and stuff like that, which was that was erroneous. But they did make it close to there, and we found that they would do that from time to time, put it close to like a school or a mosque, or but not as many as you think. Those are probably the only two significant ones I remember, really. The rest were pretty much single buildings and easy to blow up and things. We did some IED stuff where insurgents, the UAV. We worked up near Tikrit. We worked a lot with the UAV flying people, and we had a liaison that we worked with the UAV people, and we did a couple missions where they would grid locate using the UAV the vehicle that the insurgents were using to bring the supplies to an intersection where they put IEDs. They like to put IEDs in intersections, and they like to do it like at midnight or so. And so whenever that was happening, when we were up near Tikrit, and we were working closely with some of the UAV liaison liaisons, they would give us those grids, and we'd blow up the vehicle so they couldn't emplace the ID and blow up the insurgents that were trying to plant the ID.
Okay. And just to clarify, could you tell for the video, could you say what a UAV is?
A UAV, unmanned aircraft. It's like the drones, basically. And then IEDs, improvised explosive device. And then also we did that with VBIDs, which are vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices.
Okay. And so you guys were firing rockets. Now, how far away were you firing these from? I mean, did you guys go out there, or were you firing from the base?
Oh, we had to set up a firing point off the post because the gases from the rockets are poisonous and can kill people. So obviously we're going to shoot them on the forward operating bases.
Okay, so you guys... So
usually close to the right off the operating base is usually where we like to set up.
Okay, so did you have to go up and set up a little kind of area out there, or? Yeah,
a lot of times we were able to find just abandoned Iraqi buildings that were already there that we used most of the time, the majority of the time. And we could set up tents and stuff, but generally usually all the time I remember we had abandoned buildings or buildings that we could use.
Okay, so you just do your fire mission and then head back to the FOB?
Right.
Okay.
Well, actually, we kept crews out there manning that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at 24/7.
Oh, okay.
We had to have a crew and a launcher ready to fire 24/7. So they were all we always had crews rotating out there.
Oh, okay. So you guys just had like a sleep plan?
Right, shifts. We did shifts.
Okay.
And the officers, all except for the commander and the first sergeant, the rest of them did work shifts. Everybody else worked shifts.
Okay.
Including the lieutenants, the platoon sergeants, and then the crew, and all the other soldiers all worked shifts. Because we had to have 24/7 operation.
Okay.
Because you don't know, like we shot even rockets on Christmas Day, and we put like Merry Christmas Saddam on the rockets and stuff like that. So. Although I think by the time that was, I think he was actually captured, but we still wrote it.
Yeah. All right. Now, did you ever experience any combat, like you guys getting attacked or anything like that on your your outpost that you guys set up or anything like that?
Or on on the way or anything? No, I personally didn't. I mean, I knew some guys that had. We didn't lose any soldiers in my detachment that went over there.
Okay.
Now, we worked with some, and come across, quite a few soldiers that ended up, getting attacked, and some, died and whatnot or got wounded. But none of mine did from my detachment. The only time I remember coming under anything was like I was actually flying in a Black Hawk, and I'm sitting right by the door gunner, and I feel something hitting me in the face. And I look down, and it's like the casings of his 240 that he's shooting. So he's shooting something. So I'm assuming he was shooting at something, that was shooting at us. But that's about the closest thing I got to, And then another time I took a picture that we heard an explosion. I was like right outside one of our fobs, heading to the firing point, and I heard an explosion. I looked over, and it was like about a quarter of a mile. There's a big cloud of dust where I guess something went off. I don't know if it was an IED or whatever, or even the engineers were detonating something or other. But that was about as close as I came to really anything being, dangerously shot or. Fortunately, and I'm glad. It's better than being maimed and coming back maimed.
Yeah, definitely. So, did that affect you at all? I know you guys blew up a lot of stuff when you guys were out there with your artillery. I mean, did that affect you at all, witnessing, what you guys are capable of there, or just seeing
Not really.
destruction, or?
Well, I remember we were shooting rockets, and with that, we shot them miles away, so we couldn't even really. Our battle damage assessments were taken usually by an observer or another investigations.
Oh, okay.
BDA investigative assigned crew to that incident, and so we'd get them later on, and they were just pictures. So basically, what the aftermath of what I saw, I wasn't physically right there when those rockets came in and blew up because I was, shooting them or processing the missions a couple miles away. So all I saw was basically no more than somebody would see like watching a war movie on TV, but it was on a screen of the damage that was taken after we had just blown it up. So it wasn't that bad for us, in my opinion.
Okay.
Now I'm sure for observers, but then again, a lot of what's the beauty about these new munitions that we use multiple launch rocket systems. They're GPS guided, so they're pinpoint accuracy, and with that, basically, when you blew stuff up, even if there were bad guys in there, it just basically, incinerator just blown it. So you really couldn't even really tell that much. There wasn't much left, put it that way. There was some, and they would report it, maybe some limbs that they saw or something of the inserters, whatever. But it's such a powerful explosion. Usually, really. There wasn't much left, just a lot of rubble and stuff like that. And again, that wasn't my job, so I didn't have to worry about, my job was getting that rocket there on target, blowing it up, and that's what we did I believe over 200 rockets. I don't know the exact numbers around that anyway.
Okay.
And I'm sure that number might be classified, whatever, anyway, so, I don't really know the exact number.
Okay. Yeah. Did you make any good friendships while you were over there?
With Iraqis or our
anybody?
Own guys?
Yeah, with your guys. With Iraqis, anything?
The Iraqis, they were kind of interesting. We used to bribe them with Coca-Cola, and they love Mountain Dew, but we couldn't hardly ever get it. But for some reason, somehow we could get cases of Coca-Cola. So whenever one particular firing point, some Iraqi guys they'd always come by, and what we'd do is we'd give them Coca-Cola or soft soda, American soda pop, and they would tell us, just about what's going on as far as, the roads, for example, this is just an example, where are the hot spots in MSR Tampa, or, which is main supply route Tampa or whatever, because so they were giving us kind of what we'd like to think and tell of, hey, what road do we do spread the word to not to go to because there might be an ambush or anything like that. So they just give us little tidbits of what's going on out throughout the country there on the different routes. And in return we'd give them soda pop and some American candy and stuff like that, and they thought that was pretty cool. So
yeah,
they like that.
Are these locals, or were they kids? Were they adults? Was it a combination?
Adults.
Okay, mostly adults then.
Yeah, you'd see kids, but they were usually really shy.
Okay.
Sometimes they'd ask you for candy and stuff like that, but the kids you can really rely on them to tell you anything. There's the guys that we kind of actually, like to talk to were adult males, usually, generally speaking.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about guys? What about other soldiers or other other
All
branches?
that I'm close friends with, keep in contact, that I fought with. Not really. I mean, one of my other fellow platoon leader, he did email me after that when I was back in Ohio, serving as a commander for the military police.
Mm-hmm.
I left active duty in 2000, well, it was around December 08, and joined the reserves 2009 around sometime in spring, maybe March 2009. I'm just kind of guessing, I don't know the exact right off. And then I joined a military police unit, so I became a commander. And then one of my former fellow platoon leaders, I got a couple emails from him, and we kind of respond that way. He's still active duty as far as I know. But that's about it. The other guys, not really. I think some of them were getting out, some of them stayed in, but they just kind of we all went our separate ways.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them reclassed, some of them went on to different assignments and stuff like that. Yeah.
Did you said that you got out in the winter or December of 08, but
Right.
you came into the National Guard?
No, reserves.
Reserves in
Well,
09?
Yeah, it was just like, I'm going to say maybe March, April of 09.
Now, did you get out and then later on decided to go to the reserve, or did you?
No, when I got out, you get out and you're still basically, you can get out, like, since I was OCS, when they basically tore up my contract for the, enlisted side of the house, and then gave me this new commissioned officer contract. It was a 3-year deal, and then, but it's actually an 8-year deal. But you can get out after 3 years. You just go in what they call the IRR, inactive reserve.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so basically around December 08, I was automatically went into the IRR, and then around. And I don't remember the exact month, maybe March, April time frame of 09, I decided, kept getting calls about a local retention NCO for a local reserve unit, would peruse through these IRR listings, and he would call them because they were short on officers, and so he called me up and asked if I wanted to join, be a reserve officer, and I kind of blew him off at first, but then I told him I'd take a look and wanted to meet the battalion commander in S3 of that battalion. It was a military police battalion. I met him, and the battalion commander, after talking with me, goes, "Hey, man, I want you to come to be my company commander." Even though I was field artillery, I had no experience as a military policeman. He wanted me to be his company commander for one of his companies in his battalion. So I accepted, because that's a big deal to get a company command. So I accepted it, and then I became a company commander around, I don't know, maybe it was 09 sometime, maybe May.
And you're still doing that?
No, I did a little over 2 years company command, so around 2000, from about 09 to probably 2010 or 11, I was a commander. Then I had over 2 years. Usually they like you to do it no more than 2 years. So once I got my 2 years in, my battalion commander, who was a different guy by then, my original battalion commander that hired me as the company commander, he had already gone on up to brigade and became a brigade commander. So then I got a new battalion commander, and he was like, "Hey, have you got any staff time?" I was like, "No," and I go, "It's all been, command time." So he's like, "Well, you need to get staff time." He goes, "I'll tell you what, I'm gonna have a new company commander come in. We'll make the transition, and we'll get you a staff position." Well, so I started drilling with some different reserve units to be a staff officer. Because as a captain, you got to have company command time, and you got to have staff officer time as well. Work for battalion staff or brigade staff. So I drilled with I drilled a couple times with the civil affairs unit. I drilled a couple times with the PSYOPs unit. While I was drilling with the PSYOPs unit, and then a couple times with a 43rd something brigade element is an all in Army Reserve. While I was drilling one weekend, I ran into a guy. I went to grab lunch at a Chinese place outside of DSCC and ran into a guy that was in the 19th Group Special Forces. He was a chief warrant. And so I ate lunch with him, and I started asking him about, being Special Forces and where he was out of. And he says, yeah, they got a 19th Group's Guard Special Forces unit there in Columbus, Ohio, at Rickenbacker. He goes, you got to check us out. So he gave me his commander's email and name and stuff. So I emailed this commander, told him that I'd finished command and was interested in that. And so then his commander, who's a major, said, okay, you know what, we're getting a training platoon together, and you're welcome to come and join us for the training, and you make it through that, we'll send you to selection. So I started drilling with them, this 19th Group Special Forces unit, and doing training with them, and it seems like they liked what they saw. So then the head person who was operating that, a master sergeant, says, hey, look, in October, I think, and this is about October 2012-ish, says, I think I'm going to submit you to go to selection in October. And this was around August 2012. And I said, okay, cool. It was right after a drill. Well, I had a motorcycle for 14 years. So I finished drilling that weekend. Sunday, I was taking a ride on a beautiful Sunday afternoon after drill in August, and I got hit on my motorcycle. So then it smashed my leg pretty good. So I have a bio screw in my leg now, and I had to get basically a reconstructive knee surgery on that too. I fractured my heel. So then I had to tell the SF cadre that, hey, I can't do that because I just got hit by a car. So then I needed a home because I could no longer go to selection for the Special Forces. So I knew the building right next door to the Special Forces was a 437th MP, and I got their commander's name and email, and I shot him an email and said, hey, I'm looking for a home. I have experience as a commander in an MP company. Do you have any slots? And at that time, that battalion commander, who was getting ready to retire, says, hey, yeah, you can have this slot. So when I got done with my surgery, I reported for drill at that MP unit, and I've been there ever since. They made about 7 months after that, they made me an S4 there. So now I'm a logistics officer in the military police battalion.
Okay.
And that's what I'm doing now, in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, okay. All right. So you came home, when you came home from coming back to Iraq.
That was about around. I came home around May or June of 08.
Okay. So then you did another, year and a half before you got out then? Or was that
No, it was the same.
The same year that you got out? Okay.
Year.
So you did about a half a year, and that was,
Yeah.
Where was your home station then when you were?
Fort Sill.
At Fort Sill. Okay.
Yep.
How did you, just going back to Iraq just for a second, how did you stay in touch with family when you were over there?
Yeah, good question. Well, on these fobs, you had access to email on the fob. So whenever I went on the fob to eat or whatever, get supplies or whatever, or if I was staying on a fob, I would stop by. They usually had these trailers where they had email, computers hooked up internet, so I could send them emails that way. If I wasn't out at the firing point or in FDC, Fire Direction Center. That was one way. I think we could mail letters too. Yeah, I'm almost sure we did, and that went through the Army. Obviously it was an Army thing where I can't remember if we had to take them to the fob to mail them, or if we had our own little mail guy that took them for us. I don't remember that part. But you can write and mail. I didn't do a whole lot of writing. I think I mainly did emails, if I remember right.
Just email and mail then, and
yeah, that's it.
No phone, no Skype or anything like that. You guys didn't have
No.
Okay.
None of that.
Okay.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't let us bring our cell phones.
No. Will we get reception out there? Or?
That I think a lot of things, security issues, and then a lot of those insurgents use cell phones to detonate IEDs and stuff.
Want you leaving any around?
Yeah.
Okay. So what did you guys do? You got to talk to your family some, a little bit via email and mail. But what did you guys do besides that for your off time?
Well, see, I was over there a little more than a year, so I mean, halfway through they let you go on IR, so they would fly you back via like a chartered civilian type aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
What you do, they put you on like a C-130 at some fob, and you'd fly to Kuwait, and then you'd get on this. The Air Force would run you through this kind of shakedown where you had to go through all these metal detectors and make sure you're not taking anything you weren't supposed to take out.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would have like a chartered civilian aircraft, but it was all soldiers, but it was like a regular looking, aircraft, civilian aircraft, and you get on and fly. I think we flew into like Atlanta or somewhere. Then I had to, then from there, once you got off that chartered aircraft, I think, and I'm hoping I remember this right, then you fly into like Atlanta or somewhere, and then you get on a regular civilian, and that's where you kind of go your separate ways. Because I had to fly into Columbus, Ohio. So
this was during your leave time then?
yeah, IR. You get like 2 weeks in the middle of your deployment. Like I was deployed for like 13 months. So right in the middle of it, I got like an IR.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. So when you got home, I mean, what was that like when you came home? Did you guys fly same way, like you came through Atlanta? And
I think so. I think that's what we came through Atlanta, if I remember right.
Did you guys have to go back to Fort Sill first when you got home?
No, you fly directly. Like, I think we just flew in Atlanta, and then we got on a plane. Like, I got on a plane that flew me to, like, Columbus or something like that.
Okay. So you got some time off right after the deployment then?
Yeah.
Okay. How much? A couple weeks or?
Oh, you mean after the deployment?
Yeah, I'm talking about the end of the deployment. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think we did. Yeah, we did. They give you a couple weeks off, and really they have you go through these classes. But actually, when we came, I kind of ran from the IR into the coming back from deployment. When you come back from deployment, actually, you can't go home right away. You gotta go to Fort Sill, and you do the deprocessing or whatever it is. So basically, they make you take classes there about coping with everything.
Right.
So you do that for like a couple weeks, and then they let you go home.
Oh, okay. And was all your family? Did you have any family out there with you at Fort Sill or?
No, I was not married and don't have kids. So I mean.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I just did that 2 weeks or whatever where you got to go and do those classes, and then once that's done, then you take leave, and I could fly back to Ohio and visit like mom and dad,
Oh, okay.
my siblings.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what was it? I mean, what was it like when you actually got to go home and see your family and stuff? I mean, that you hadn't seen them in 6 months at least, right?
Yeah, it's good. It was good to be back. Yeah, that was real good. Yeah, it was good.
They have any like homecoming?
No, not
Party for you or
really.
nothing?
Yeah, it was funny. I got into Columbus Airport and I had to call them. They weren't even there waiting for me. I had to go to I didn't even have my cell phone because they wouldn't let us take them to Iraq. So I had to call them on a payphone and say, hey, come and get me. I'm here.
Yeah.
So that was it. So I forget it was mom or dad. One of them came and got me.
Okay. Now that you're still in, I know that as you're in the Guard,
National
but
Guard.
yeah, I mean, but you're still most of the time you're doing civilian stuff, or you're working here at
Yeah, I'm working here.
at the ROTC. Was that hard adjusting though from like deployment and military life to coming to getting off active duty, or was it pretty easy transition for you?
Oh, it was easy for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I had no problems. I mean, some guys do. Some guys suffer with that PTSD or whatever they went through in Iraq, and I didn't really get blown up, so it wasn't that big of a deal for me. We just kind of processed missions to shoot rockets, and that was pretty much it. And we're shooting them from pretty far away, so it wasn't any adjustment at all. It was pretty easy.
Okay. Are you a member of any veteran organizations now, like VFW, VMVets, or anything?
Yeah, when I came back, they gave me a free membership to the VFW, and I still get the emails and stuff. And I think they seem to pay it every year for me, but so I guess I'm still a member. I don't know. They haven't told me not to, and I still get their emails of everything they're doing. So I guess I could claim that. I mean, I don't go to any of their things. I kind of got, to me, I went to a couple when I first, left active duty when I was back here, just because, I thought that's what you do, and it was so boring to me that, I mean, it's a great thing because they do a lot of things that wouldn't normally get done by other people. Like, they usually have like a funeral detail that you can hire out. Like my grandma, when my grandpa died, she could hire the VFW to come in and do the funeral 21 gun salute or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So they do get some good stuff, and they do a lot of like good things. It's just that it was too low, or what's the word I'm looking for? It was just like too low key, like too it was too just. It just wasn't active enough for me. I wanted to just, and plus it felt like for me, it was more for the guys that really couldn't serve, and I was still in the reserves and still in the National Guard, so I can still serve. So, I'll probably not even worry about something like that until I can't any longer serve in like the National Guard or the reserves.
Okay.
All
right. So I know you haven't separated from the military yet because you're still in the Guard. So after you got off active duty orders, what did you start doing for your civilian job?
Oh, I put resumes and applied for jobs like a bunch. Mm-hmm. Honestly, it was really hard for me to get a job, a decent job. I got offers, but most of the jobs were like, the reason why you're getting offers because nobody really wanted to do them because they didn't really pay that good.
Oh, okay.
And actually, I did before I got this job. I was doing well. The job I had really wasn't. I mean, you really couldn't live on it. I mean, I was doing it. I could survive because I'm single, But I mean, you couldn't have a family and doing one before I got this job. So it was tough. And I feel sorry for a lot of veterans that come back. I mean, sometimes the job market's tough out there. Especially if you want a good job. Now, it's easy if you're willing to work for like minimum wage or just a little bit higher, around $10 an hour. But if you want really a job that's gonna like pay for a family or buy a house or something, those are tougher to get. You pretty much really gotta have so much education where somebody needs you, or else have a skill that's marketable. Whether it's in computers, whether it's like some sort of like maybe mechanic skill, electrical skill, a trade, or in some type of engineering or something like that. And even some of the engineering is tough to get a job. So it was pretty tough. It was pretty tough to get a decent job. I got a job. It just wasn't that good a pay,
And when did you get this job here at Wright State ROTC?
Spring of 2012, April 2012. So I've been here about 2 years now, a little over 2 years.
And how'd you get this job? Did you put in a resume for it, or?
Yeah, I did. I was constantly, before this I worked for AutoZone a little while, and bless them, they hired me, but, I was hired in as such a, parts counter guy, and they do not make very much money,
Mm-hmm.
But they did hire me, so I had a job. So, but I was still, even when I was working there, I was still putting in because I knew I wanted a better job, So, what I did is I put numerous resumes and applications out all over, USA Jobs, anywhere. And I got this job because I actually put a resume out to Comtech, which is part of L3, which is a government contracting firm. Okay, I think it's now called L3. When I applied, I sent my application. It was called Comtech, and I just applied. Basically, it was an application, to work in an ROTC because I felt like, well, hey, I've been in the Army. Why not work in an ROTC or whatever? Actually, I was just trying to get a job, basically. So, lo and behold, it wasn't until about a year later that I got a call from one of their regional offices, which is in Columbus, Ohio. One of the guys, regional guys, says, "Hey, this is so and so. There's an opening at Wright State, and So then I called them back, and then they sent me an email or something, and I didn't kind of believe them, so he sent me an email explaining it. So then I emailed them back, and they asked me if I was interested, and I was like, well, Dayton's pretty close to Columbus. I was living in Columbus at the time, so I was like, sure, I'm interested, because I wanted to see what it was about. I didn't really know. I didn't necessarily believe what was going on was legit, but because you get a lot of weird stuff online, because everything was done either telephone or online. And it's easier now to identify legit things, but 3 years ago it was a little bit, you didn't know really when you get these emails, if it's a believable thing or not. So I just kind of picked their brain and stuff, and finally I visited here and discovered it was like a real job here that was opened up, so I took it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I did come here before, I actually did report here to see if it was like, more than anything, to see if, okay, is this a legitimate, real position and a real job? Am I going to really get paid if I, report here?
Yeah.
So, and I did. I walked in, met Colonel Marie, met the guy I replaced, Arneson, Mr. Arneson. They said it was real. So I said, okay.
Yeah.
So I took it.
Okay. How was your wartime in Iraq and your military experience affected your life, do you think?
Well, I work here. I mean,
It's got you your job.
got me out of the factory. I mean, before I went enlisted in the Army in 2000, whatever it was, 5, 4. I was a factory guy, and so it's kind of nice to get out of the factory. But it wasn't, I had a quality control in the factory, so it wasn't too bad of a factory job, but it was nice to get out of that. But it's been all right. It's been good. I can say I served my country, which is what I wanted to do. That's why I signed up, so I did it, and I'm still doing it. I want to do Guard Reserves, and at least till I can retire, which is at least 20 years minimum, and maybe longer if they let me. Yeah, so I'm pretty satisfied with that.
Okay. Is that, do you feel any, you've gotten any personal, your work ethic or anything like that from the military that's helped you? Or anything like that, or?
No, not really. I will say this, that I can thank them for, I think they kind of expedited me getting into the internet more than
Oh, really?
I would have if I hadn't have been in the military. But then again, I mean, the way things are, that might be as a result of things just changing anyway, because the world is getting more involved, online than it ever has. And the military has done that too. So maybe it's not as big an impact as what I'd think. But as far as work ethic, not, a lot of, I think, for me, not really, because I joined at such a older age. I would say it would affect more that 18-year-old coming out of high school, than it would me, really.
Yeah.
As far as work ethic, as far as learning things from the military.
So you said you were 31 when you went in?
Yeah, 30, 31, something like that.
Okay.
I'm right around that age, 30, 31. I was at least over 30, I know that, remember that. So, and that's pretty old. Like usually, kids would enlist around 18. So that's a big difference. And, a lot of kids, they can, that stay in the military, they can say, oh yeah, the military made me responsible. They made me get up in the morning and work hard. They made me have a good work ethic and stuff. Well, that's just because, they were just kids until they joined the military. Me, I'd already been out, I'd already gone to college. I'd already been out in the workforce, had a civilian job for many years. So it was not a big, impact as far as, changing my life for the better, so to speak, as far as work ethic and stuff like that. That really didn't, it was not any much different really. So I can't, thank the military for that or anything.
Okay.
I mean, what I can thank the military for is just letting me do it, because it's what I want to do. When 9/11 happened, I wanted to serve in the military, so they let me do it. So that's what, so I was able to do it. So that's cool. Some people, they can't. They might have a a health problem that doesn't allow them to serve. They might have, you know, some legal issues, you know, or some, you know, some kind of thing, you know, that doesn't allow them to serve, you know, legal, criminal, or, you know, just health issues or injuries or whatever that don't allow them to serve. But fortunately, I was able to do that.
Yeah. All right. Any other any message you'd want to leave for future generations watching this video?
No, not really. I mean, if you want to serve, I would go ahead and follow your heart. If you want to do it, do it. You know, if you don't, then no big deal. You don't have to. That's the beauty of America. It's not like we make you, I guess, unless we implement a draft and go to a big war. But well, it hasn't been since Vietnam, so you know. But you know, it's what I want to do. I did it, and I got the opportunity, so that's good.
Okay. Anything else you feel like we haven't discussed that you wanted to add to the interview?
No, not really.
No?
I think it's good.
All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you, Vinton.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Yep.